Yesterday's terror attack in Paris on the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo came after years of threats against the publisher and even a firebombing of its offices. Although the assault was unusual in its deadly brutality, it is not uncommon for businesses large and small to be the target of threat or intimidation. The Sony hacking story is another recent example. So what can and what should businesses do in the face of intimidation? Richard Torrenzano is CEO of the risk management firm, the Torrenzano Group. Richard, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Nice to see you both.
You know, I think of these two most recent incidents, one deadly, one highly disruptive. What unites them is that they were perpetrated by individuals or countries that had a beef against those specific companies. These were clear threats of intimidation. Do you expect to see more of this happening around the world and even here in the United States?
Well, we don't, no one really knows, but I think you have to speculate and you have to give it your best thinking. And that's what I think a lot of companies are doing right now. We've had more calls in the last 4 weeks since the Sony attack than we've had in the last year on this subject. Matter of fact, I had to postpone, I know you had to postpone an Italian vacation, I had to postpone a Caribbean vacation because of that. You need to look at the world in three pockets right now, and I'm generalizing here a bit, but the Chinese are stealing our secrets, our proprietary information. The Russians are stealing our financial data, and the Middle East have assassins. Now, this is not all the people in those countries, clearly, but that's generally how the risk world is looking at the world right now. This is far more than intimidation. And this is, if you take a step back and look historically at the world, you and I have talked about the Red Brigade in the 60s and 70s and how they attacked business people. You have to, if you're in a corporation, whether you're the CEO or the CFO or the COO or in HR or in marketing or in communications, you have to sit back and look at your industry and look at your geography and say, look outside the box and say, what can happen here? One of the calls we're getting is they want an outsider's perspective because you have some very smart people in these positions in corporations around the world.
Do you find that American corporations, especially those with a global footprint, are prepared enough, or how far behind are most major corporations in looking at their safety, their infrastructure, their cyber security?
I think some are prepared and some are not prepared. I think the ones who have a more global view about what's really been taking place in the world. The multinationals tend to look at these things, whether you're in security or IT or wherever you are, and look at a global view and say, what do we need to do in this new environment? I mean, the calls we've been getting came out of Sony and now the last 24 hours because of Paris. I think you have to take a hard look and say, could this happen here? And are we prepared? Are we protecting our employees the best way we can? Are our facilities secure the best way they can be secure? How are we looking at IT, computers and websites?
I guess you have to think also about your vulnerabilities. Pharmaceutical companies that do animal testing, they can be vulnerable to animal rights activists who have a problem with that. Other companies may have vulnerabilities of intimidation because of a stance they may take on a political topic, whether it's gay marriage or something else.
If you look at the radar and you look at what's been happening in the world, whether it's shareholder activism or anti-police activism, or unfortunately the terror attacks in Paris or the Sony attacks and others, a lot of lights are lighting up. There seems to be an attack against a democratic way of life. One of the great things I saw in reading the French papers this morning was the way the French people responded, do not steal our freedom of speech. I mean, going back to our American Revolution, the French gave us the idea of freedom of speech. But I think there is an attack against institutions in a way we haven't seen them before, and I think, I hate to say it could accelerate, but it can, and all you need to do is really have a plan and be prepared and be thinking about it.
Richard, we have to leave it there, a topic I know we'll be returning to. Richard Torrenzano of the Torrenzano Group.